Welcome in Wednesday evening, and every single day we have something new to talk about. The latest is the big snub, or shall I say, the big snubs. Neither Christian McCaffrey nor Dre Greenlaw are Pro Bowlers. And although I understand a little bit with Dre Greenlaw, since only two inside linebackers per conference make the Pro Bowl, I don't fully agree with anything. I don't fully understand everything because Dre Greenlaw is not even one of the 49ers' seven alternates, which is wild considering how dominant Dre Greenlaw has been this year. But it's Christian McCaffrey that, to me, I mean, Christian McCaffrey should be getting votes for Offensive Player of the Year, maybe even some MVP votes based on what he's done for the 49ers this year. And you've already seen me put up the graphic. It's part of the article that I wrote this morning. I'll get it up again here so everybody can go ahead and check it out. His impact on the 49ers has been that monumental. So the fact that Christian McCaffrey, when he is arguably a team MVP and arguably deserving of even loftier NFL awards like Offensive Player of the Year, the fact that he doesn't make the Pro Bowl, especially after he won the fan voting at running back for the NFC, that just completely blows my mind. It's a snub unlike any snub that I've seen at the NFL level. And here's the thing, I've covered Christian McCaffrey before back at Stanford in 2015, and Christian McCaffrey was really snubbed back in 2015. This is what happened back then. 3,864 all-purpose yards for Christian McCaffrey. That shattered the record held by Barry Sanders by 614 yards. It was a season unlike any other. Again, Barry Sanders had this long-standing record, a 27-year-old record. Future Detroit Lion, Oklahoma State running back at the time, Barry Sanders had 3,250 all-purpose yards. It stood for nearly 3 decades until Christian McCaffrey showed up in 2015 and just obliterated this record by over 600 yards. It was a season that I don't think we'll ever see again at the college football level. Christian McCaffrey grew up watching a lot of Reggie Bush. Well, he took what Reggie Bush did years earlier and provided a hell of an encore. He did a lot more than Reggie Bush. 3,864 all-purpose yards, yet that was not good enough for him to win the Heisman Trophy. He was a runner-up despite that awesome year. So that was the first snub for Christian McCaffrey. And the second snub has come today. Now, we look at this. Check this out right here. Kyle Juszczyk quote tweeted me, and I thought that this really encapsulated everything, including the feelings from within the 49ers locker room. First, look at what I put up there, because the running backs who did make it from the NFC, and 3 did make it, are Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard, and Miles Sanders. That is the all-purpose yardage total for Barkley, Pollard, and Sanders. 1,464, Pollard 1,279, Miles Sanders 1,182. Christian McCaffrey, despite only being with the 49ers for 8 games, and obviously the 49ers are better for his all-purpose yardage total than Carolina, Christian McCaffrey has racked up more all-purpose yards than any of the 3 running backs who actually made the NFC Pro Bowl team. 1,578 for McCaffrey. And this tweet really took off because, well, I mean, it clearly illustrates that this was a snub situation for Christian McCaffrey. Kyle Juszczyk takes it and says, respect to the guys who made it, but a complete travesty that Christian McCaffrey is not on this roster. Kyle Juszczyk is the fullback. Congratulations to him. For the 7th straight season, Kyle Juszczyk has qualified for the Pro Bowl. Harvard man is there, but his Stanford counterpart doesn't make it. And, you know, I have a theory, and this is it. And I brought up the Heisman example for Christian McCaffrey in 2015, and now 7 years later in 2022, we see the Pro Bowl example in the NFL. I think that football awards simply haven't caught up to reality yet. They don't seem to value multifaceted running backs, and obviously that's exactly what Christian McCaffrey is. McCaffrey is a guy who can line up at slot receiver, outside receiver. Hell, you could put him in on H-back, some of these tight end snaps. He doesn't only have to line up a tailback. He can also throw for a touchdown. I saw that during his should have been Heisman season at Stanford. He threw for a touchdown at Levi Stadium against USC in the Pac-12 championship game. It was a foreshadowing of what was going to happen for the 49ers several years later in McCaffrey's full-time debut, but at SoFi Stadium. He threw to the touchdown to Brandon Ayuk, and he became the first player in 49ers history to throw for a touchdown, run for a touchdown, and catch a touchdown in the same game. I believe that's only been done 4 times total in all of NFL history. So, I mean, that made national headlines. People should have seen what Christian McCaffrey did there. And to the fans' credit, he won the fan voting. But remember that the fan voting is only a third of the Pro Bowl equation. The coaches and the players have the other 2/3. So something happened in the other 2/3 where the coaches and the players didn't vote Christian McCaffrey in. I get the Heisman thing back in 2015 because, I mean, we've seen Stanford have a long history of Heisman runners-up. Toby Gerhardt, Andrew Luck twice, right? And Christian McCaffrey in 2015, always finishing second, usually to somebody from the SEC. There is regional bias in college football voting, especially in the Heisman voting. But in the NFL, that shouldn't be the case, especially since if there were regional bias due to the media and due to, fans being led a certain way, that regional bias didn't show up on the fan voting. Christian McCaffrey actually won the fan voting for NFC running backs. So what kicked him out was the 2/3 of the equation that went to player and coaches voting. And I think that even players and coaches aren't fully grasping the value of multifaceted running backs. And, this is one area where the 49ers are ahead of the curve, and Shanahan has been ahead of the curve. Positionless skill position players, right? Guys who you don't know where they're going to line up because they can do so many different things. The 49ers have stockpiled these types of weapons. Deebo Samuel, Pro Bowl alternate this year because he's had some injury issues, hasn't been on the field quite as much. But Deebo Samuel, wide back, right? He lines up in the backfield, lines up out as a wide receiver. George Kittle, even as a tight end, has led the league multiple times in yards per route run, which is a stat that in the past had almost always been led by wide receivers. Those are positionless skill positions. And for Kyle Shanahan, they're especially important coming out of the backfield because he wants his running backs like Christian McCaffrey to be legitimate receiving threats. And, everybody always talks about, well, this guy has this much rushing yardage. This guy is averaging this many yards per carry. Well, Christian McCaffrey's primary impact to the 49ers in a positive fashion has nothing to do with his yards per carry or how many times he's touching the ball in the ground game. And it has more to do with the fact that he can split out wide or he can leak out of the backfield at any given time and have amazing chemistry with a quarterback and deliver a security blanket that has literally changed the 49ers offense this season. I've got to pull this graphic up from today's story because this one I think is the end-all be-all that illustrates Christian McCaffrey's impact, that puts up a good case that he should be an Offensive Player of the Year candidate, and I think ultimately will land him on the All-Pro team, which is more valuable than the Pro Bowl, by the way, even though he didn't make the Pro Bowl. So here you go. This is the 49ers offense before and after Christian McCaffrey this season, full-time Christian McCaffrey. Red is below average. Blue is above average. So you want to be darker blue, not darker red, because that means that you're further below average. This left side is what the 49ers offense was doing before Christian McCaffrey. The rankings aren't great. Overall DVOA number 21 to summarize it. After Christian McCaffrey, look at the rankings. Overall DVOA number 1. From number 21 to number 1. Now, of course, it's not all Christian McCaffrey. The 49ers got healthier in other areas and further refined their game across the board. But anybody who watches these games, especially if you go in person, you understand the impact that Christian McCaffrey has. He has a gravitational pull out there. It was most apparent against Seattle about a week ago on Thursday. McCaffrey got touches, I think, on 33 or 34 of the 49ers' 50-something offensive snaps. Early on, it was like 20 out of the first 29 went to Christian McCaffrey, either through a handoff or through a target on a pass pattern out of the backfield. And because he was so heavily used and because the 49ers established Christian McCaffrey so convincingly, and you can only do that when a guy is as skilled as Christian McCaffrey is, The Seattle Seahawks just got sucked into Christian McCaffrey on every single play fake. And the 49ers just mercilessly killed them with play action over the course of the second half. That big gainer to Tyler Kroft, where he was wide open from Brock Purdy, that was off of a Christian McCaffrey play fake. The most famous example came in the first half, first touchdown. Brock Purdy, Hollywood is what they called the play, faked left on a throw to Ray McCloud, faked right on a throw to Christian McCaffrey. You saw 6 or 7 Seahawks defenders bolt toward Christian McCaffrey, but Purdy still has the ball. It was a fake. The Red Sea parted for George Kittle over the middle. McCaffrey's impact on a football game is almost immeasurable, but I managed to measure it here, right? I made this table, came out in the article today. Go ahead and check it out because it's a timely article at this point. It's about the 49ers second half surge. I didn't know that Christian McCaffrey wasn't going to make it the Pro Bowl when I wrote it, but I put the article right there into the comment section for you. I think this quantifies the impact of Christian McCaffrey. And I'm sorry, Tony Pollard isn't doing this for his team. Miles Sanders is not doing this for his team. Yeah, I don't even think that Saquon Barkley is making this kind of impact for the New York Giants. So the 49ers are now the number one offense in the NFC or the NFL right now. Since Christian McCaffrey came aboard, they've been more efficient than anybody if you're going to look at the DVOA. And, you'd be a fool to think that Christian McCaffrey wasn't a huge part of that. So disrespect it. This is Kyle Juszczyk. Respect to the guys who made it, but complete travesty that Christian McCaffrey is not on this roster, especially when you look at this right here. More all-purpose yards than the guys who actually made it. And it reminded me of the Heisman in 2015, where McCaffrey was snubbed after shattering the all-purpose yardage record, a 27-year-old record held by Barry Sanders, one of the all-time legends of this game. The other snub today, no Dre Greenlaw. Now, McCaffrey's an alternate, and I'll read off the 49ers who made it here in just a second, but Greenlaw's not even an alternate. Now, I get Greenlaw not making the NFC Pro Bowl team because, again, it's tough for inside linebackers. Only 2 make it per conference. Fred Warner's one of them. I guess 49ers fans wanted both of the inside linebacker spots of the Pro Bowl to belong to 49ers, but it wasn't going to be. Demario Davis got that second spot. Demario Davis, the Saints, has 8 sacks this year. He's been used on a lot of blitzes. He's more of a pass rusher than any of the 49ers linebackers are because it's a different scheme over there in New Orleans. So I think that the 8 sacks put Demario Davis over the top, but Fred Warner certainly deserves his spot because he completely shuts down the middle of the field in pass coverage. He's a different player than Dre Greenlaw, who is a throwback, who just administers pain, has forced a couple fumbles this year, intercepted Tom Brady with a really, really acrobatic pick. And Dre Greenlaw has hit 100 tackles for the first time in his career. He's one of the best tacklers in football. So Dre Greenlaw, I think, absolutely is a Pro Bowl caliber player. But I think that, in a situation like this, he's on the outside looking in because of the fact that the Pro Bowl roster only allows for 2 inside linebackers. Now, the fact that Greenlaw is not even an alternate, that makes you scratch your head too, but just really a tough break. I think that, both of these players, Greenlaw and McCaffrey, could easily give the 49ers players number 7 and 8 to make the Pro Bowl. Instead, they only have 6. And I think every year we also run into issues like this that expose how poor the Pro Bowl selection process actually is. Obviously, the fans can cram the ballot box, but in this case, it shouldn't have hurt the 49ers because their fans came out to vote. Christian McCaffrey led the NFC running backs in that Pro Bowl vote. There was something going on with the players and coaches, and my best theory is this one, that football awards simply don't seem to value multifaceted running backs quite yet. That, there's still too much of a pigeonholing. Oh, this guy's a runner, this guy's a receiver. And if the guy's both, well, then maybe his numbers are going to be a little bit lower on each end because he is so versatile. He is doing both, but it doesn't help him earn the award that is specifically there for running backs. There are 3 running back spots, and that's specifically there for receivers. So you're kind of caught, in between. And I think that's what's happened for Christian McCaffrey. And not that it's excusable, but I think that's what's happened. I'm just explaining it. And I think it's happened to Christian McCaffrey in the 2015 Heisman race and here in the Pro Bowl. All right, 49ers, the ones who made it. Nick Bosa, his 3rd Pro Bowl, 2nd consecutive appearance, definitely deserves it. Talanoa Hufanga, first Pro Bowl selection. This one might have been a pleasant surprise for 49ers. I'm sure the people who had money on this said that the 49ers would have 6 selections, but that the 6th would be McCaffrey and not Talanoa Hufanga. But Hufanga gets in there. That was after Tashawn Gibson stumped for him last Thursday in Seattle. So Hufanga's not a perfect player yet, but he is a rising stock, and it's cool to see him honored in the Pro Bowl. Remember, he came out of USC, and in one of his early 49ers press conferences, Talanoa Hufanga said he wanted to become a special teams Pro Bowler in his first year. Well, he didn't become a special teams Pro Bowler last year, but he made a massive special teams play, picking up the block punt in Green Bay, freezing weather. Not easy. Scored the touchdown. 49ers ended up winning that one. But, he made the huge special teams play. I think that counts more than special teams Pro Bowl status. And now we see Talanoa Hufanga as a defensive Pro Bowler in just his second year. What a story. Kyle Juszczyk, 7 consecutive Pro Bowls at the fullback position, 6 with the 49ers. Every single year that he's been with the 49ers, Juszczyk has been a Pro Bowler. George Kittle, 4 Pro Bowls with the 49ers, 4 out of 6 seasons. Also impressive. George Kittle definitely deserves that. He's one of the best players in the NFL. Fred Warner, 2nd Pro Bowl selection of his career. Didn't make it last year after the slow start, but he's made it in 2021 and 2023. And I mentioned Warner. He's creeping up on 100 tackles, has 98 so far, but there is no better linebacker in pass coverage in the entire NFL. And finally, Trent Williams. I mean, he might be the greatest to ever play the tackle position. This is his 10th Pro Bowl. He is showing no signs of slowing down. Congratulations to Trent Williams. If you want to know the alternates, I think these are interesting too. Center Jake Brendel. Remember all the hand-wringing about Alex Mack retiring? Well, Brendel is a Pro Bowl alternate. That's quite the accomplishment. Kicker Robbie Gould still doing it, even as he advances in age. McCaffrey, mentioned that. He shouldn't be an alternate. He should be an actual Pro Bowler. Ray McLeod is a return specialist. He has improved as this season has gone along. Debo, he's in there as an alternate. Cornerback Charvarius Ward, you can make the argument that he should be in the Pro Bowl as an actual player, not an alternate, but it's tough because that's another crowded position. And Mitch Wishnowsky, the punter. But no McCaffrey, no Greenlaw. Tough for those 2 players. I know there's some disappointment coming from both of them. But, it could be that we see, especially McCaffrey, on an all-pro team without being on the Pro Bowl, which is still wild to me. I don't know how that can be possible, but make it make sense. This Pro Bowl voting often leaves us in a head-scratching position, especially since it's December 21st and they've already announced the team. I mean, we still have the biggest games of the year to go. 3 regular season weeks left, then the playoffs, but you got to determine the Pro Bowl now because that happens before the Super Bowl. Now, a lot of players have contracts that have incentives and different pay scales tied to this. I don't think that McCaffrey or Greenlaw are going to be hurt financially by this. I don't think they have any of that stuff in their contract. But I do have to say that the 49ers team goal is to make it to the Super Bowl. And since they have the most Pro Bowlers of any team and the most Pro Bowlers plus alternates of any team, I think the 49ers have a very good chance of making the Super Bowl. And if they do make the Super Bowl, the players who are picked for the Pro Bowl from the Super Bowl contending team don't go to the Pro Bowl because it's held the week before the Super Bowl. So this may all end up moot, but it is an issue of pride, right? Because, I mean, you grow up and you dream of becoming an NFL player and you dream of becoming a Pro Bowler, right? You want that recognition. You want that respect from your peers. And the fact that McCaffrey didn't get it from his peers and the coaches, that one has to sting. Now, the last time that Christian McCaffrey was snubbed, this time, right, the Heisman Trophy 2015, his very next game was the Rose Bowl. And in that very next game, Christian McCaffrey racked up 368 all-purpose yards to set a Rose Bowl record. The opponents on the other side were George Kittle, Iowa, and C.J. Beathard, Iowa. So maybe this time George Kittle is going to have a lot more fun being on the beneficiaries side of a Christian McCaffrey post-snub outburst. Christian McCaffrey is going to be motivated as hell now. He was already motivated before, but I'd expect some big performances coming up from him because I've covered him after he didn't win the Heisman, and Stanford's team was pretty upset about that in 2015. Not winning the Heisman turned into a 368 all-purpose yard performance against Iowa in the Rose Bowl. Game before that, the one where McCaffrey threw the touchdown pass, 461 all-purpose yards. 461 all-purpose yards for one player in one game, Christian McCaffrey against USC. So he has a prolific track record of production, and he also now has a track record of getting snubbed for these awards. But it is what it is. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to open up 40. By the way, 49ers number one offense DVOA ever since Christian McCaffrey joined this football team. Let's open up 49ers Q&A. I have to put this on the text title below us. See what you guys have to say. Maybe give you a little bit of a recap of what happened in the facility today. Beautiful Wednesday night. No, it's a little bit later. I didn't get home until right when I went online with this show. I've been working really hard. Tomorrow's going to be a little bit easier. We have the week, everything is pushed up one day. That actually makes it cool because tomorrow on Thursday night, I won't be having nearly as much work. So be able to kind of chill, watch the Jets and the Jags, Robert Saleh, and then, talk more football here, which is always fun. And yeah, this is a good point. Roger Craig is still getting snubbed from the Hall of Fame, and he was the original 1,000 guy. He was the original multifaceted back. So, that supports my theory that football awards simply don't seem to value multifaceted running backs. And that goes back to the 49ers and Roger Craig. Dre Greenlaw, I guess, didn't get much of the popular vote, the public vote, which makes the popularity contest. I get it. Hey, it's hard to argue. I don't see the Dre Greenlaw thing as some kind of massive slight. I see it as a bad setup by the Pro Bowl. Only two inside linebackers per conference are going to make it. Well, Warner's going to have to be one of them, and then they just pick the sacks leader, Demario Davis, to be the other. So whatever in that situation. The fact that he's not an alternate. Now that makes my head scratch a bit because Greenlaw has been an overpowering player for the 49ers this year. The epicenter of the 49ers defense has moved from the line to linebacker. The line's not as good as it was in 19. It's really good, but they don't have DJ Jones. They don't have D Ford. They don't have DeForest Buckner. The defensive line is solid. I would say it's great, but it's not legendary. The linebacking crew, though, for the 49ers, between Warner, Greenlaw, and Azeez Al-Shire, I mean, that's the heartbeat of the defense now. And we could be nice to the defensive line. The entire front seven is the heartbeat of the defense. But I think it's relevant to mention that, kind of nuanced shift over the past couple of years. Who replaces D'Amico Ryans after this year? Oh, why don't we say Vic Fangio would be my guess. I think Vic Fangio would want that job. Where does D'Amico go next year as the head coach? It depends on who gets fired. It's really tough to know right now. Who's gonna lose their jobs this year? And then that's what happens with the openings. So we'll see on that thing. This is awesome. On a personal note, I was born at Kauai Delta Hospital as well. Thanks, man. I'm from Visalia too. We had lots of 49ers fans there at Kauai Delta. That's awesome. Yeah, that's the hospital. May 5th, 1988. That's when I was born, back at Kauai Delta. Cool note. Thank you for that. So here's the thing about using Jordan Mason more instead of 25 and plus carries for McCaffrey. The 49ers need to establish enough of a threat that they're going to go to McCaffrey a lot when he's out there to run a lot of the play action stuff. And then they benefit from the fresh legs that Jordan Mason brings at the end of the game. They were trying to win a division in Seattle when they were so focused on Christian McCaffrey, and their QB was hurt. Brock Purdy didn't even throw the football in the week leading up to the game. So to me, it made a lot of sense. They funneled the game plan through McCaffrey. I don't think that what they did in Seattle is going to be what they replicate each time. I do think that you see a little bit of a ease off of that workload moving forward because the quarterback's going to be healthier. You don't have to funnel everything through McCaffrey. You're not playing for the division crown every week too. So, I agree with you and I disagree with you because I think it's a little bit more nuanced than just saying he should get less carries because I think he will get less carries, less touches. I think there was a reason, though, and a good reason why he did against Seattle. Mason is the 49ers closer. Mariano Rivera, as Christian McCaffrey called him. I was just in Hanford the other day. It's awesome. I took the train from Hanford up here to San Francisco. Flew from Seattle to Fresno after the game. Spent the early Christmas weekend with my family because obviously the 49ers next game is on Christmas Eve. Still remember 49ers Jaguars. Remember Garoppolo Christmas Eve in 2017? So they play on Christmas Eve again this year. That's a crazy memory. 5 years ago already. That's wild. But anyway, I was in Visalia. It was foggy as hell all weekend. Got on the train in Hanford, came up here because I didn't have my car since I flew down to Fresno from Seattle. So shout out to the Central Valley checking in on this show. Lombardi is from Ohio. What are you talking about? I'm from the Central Valley of California. I'm not from Ohio. Awesome. Getting a lot of this Visalia stuff. Yeah, Arizona could be looking for a new head coach. It'd be crazy if D'Amico Ryan stayed in the division. I think it's more likely that Arizona replaces their GM than Kingsbury, but we'll see because that Arizona thing has spiraled out of control this year. Not good for the Cardinals. Oh man, D'Amico Ryans and Jimmy Garoppolo to the Colts. Well, after the Colts right there, the Andrew Luck jersey. I mean that goes back to the Stanford days, obviously Andrew Luck jersey, but the Colts talk about a mismanaged team. I mean just brutal, right? The mismanagement at the top carries over to mismanagement on the field during these games, and that was just ghastly against the Vikings. And the 49ers might still get that number 2 seed. I think it's still a toss up. Obviously, at halftime of that game, 49ers were favored to get that 2 seed. Then the 33-0 lead disappeared. But to me, this is really interesting to me. If the Packers stay in the hunt this weekend, which would happen if the 49ers beat Washington, right? Beating Washington opens the door potentially, or at least opens some hope for a lot of teams. If the Packers stay in the hunt, into January 1st, they're going to have a lot to play for against the Vikings at home on New Year's Day, Lambeau Field. And I think that the Green Bay Packers playing well are better than the Minnesota Vikings. I think the Vikings have gotten lucky this year. The Packers definitely haven't, but that can change, especially if the teams are trending in different directions. And on January 1st, we might see the Packers deliver the blow to the Vikings that the 49ers will need to move up to that number 2 seed, which is really important to the 49ers because they want to guarantee as many potential home games as possible in these playoffs. It'd be crazy, though, if Garoppolo and D'Amico Ryans both went to the Colts next year, ended up in the same spot. It's going to be a wild offseason. Buckle up for that, by the way. You thought this season's fun? Well, enjoy it first because the playoffs are going to be a hell of a wild ride. But if you thought 2022 was crazy for the 49ers in the offseason, just wait for 2023 when they have so many questions to answer. I mean, we theoretically entered this past offseason without many quarterback questions to answer, right? Everybody knew the 49ers plan, or at least people who were paying attention knew that it was going to be Trey Lance and that they were going to try to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. The drama didn't happen until they were unable to do the second thing, right? Trade Jimmy Garoppolo. And then they brought him back. And there was a lot of just little pieces and bits of drama that kind of piled on before that. It was a wild ride. And I think 2023 is lining up to be even wilder. When we'll be able to talk. Well, the problem is that Garoppolo hasn't been in the locker room during media availability because I don't even know how often he's around the facility right now. I don't know where exactly he's getting treatment for the foot. They're trying to get that fracture to heal as quickly as possible. So, like I said, I think we'll have a little bit more of an idea of what's going on in a week or two. When you're about a month away from the fracture, then you could be like, oh, okay, this is how it's going. This is how the bone is healing. Up until then, it's a little bit of a crapshoot, which is why you just have estimates. And you're still going to be dealing with estimates, but they're going to become a whole lot more accurate as time moves along. Joshua says that he feels that this upcoming game is going to be the 49ers' toughest out of their last 3. Definitely the best defense that they're facing. It's a top 10 Washington defense. You've got a good defensive line. Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, Montez Sweat, maybe Chase Young coming back. That's a really good Washington D-line. This is like a poor man's version of the 2011 49ers, this Commanders team. Got a really good defense, a below average offense, and a good special teams unit. And the offense, though, despite not being good, leads the league in time of possession. So they do it because they play at a super slow pace, number 30 out of 32 teams. They love to run the football. They're a volume running team. The two backs are actually tough on this team, right? But they don't have a good quarterback. I mean, they've got Wentz and Heineke. Heineke is currently the starter. Neither of those two guys have impressed many people this year. But somehow, some way, Washington has been playing complementary football. They've won 6 of their past 8 games, but there was a loss that just happened to the New York Giants where we saw the limitations of this Commanders team. They only scored 12 points against the number 29 defense in the league. Now, they probably should have scored more at the end because of the PI call, but still, it wasn't enough to beat the New York Giants. So this is a limited Washington team, but they do play good defense, and because of that, it might be a tougher test than the Raiders and the Cardinals. Although I do think the Raiders in an emotional game at home, even if there are a lot of 49ers fans, with an offense that could put up some points, I mean, Derek Carr can put up some points, that might get a little bit dicey on New Year's Day. It's certainly going to be a fun atmosphere at Allegiant Stadium. Mount Whitney. I went to Mount Whitney High School. Born in Kauai Delta, went to Mount Whitney High School. All right. Do I think that we've seen the best from Brock Purdy? I don't know. I think that we've seen him get away with some stuff that I think he can clean up. I mean, the ball that should have been intercepted to Quandre Diggs didn't have a lot of velocity on it, but it was a bad decision. We've seen him run into a couple sacks, and I think those are all things that you would, with proper development over time, you would hope that a quarterback does eliminate. Now, that being said, Purdy has the second highest passer rating in the league ever since he took over for Garoppolo. So he's doing a whole heck of a lot right. So obviously, I could see the thought, do we think that we've seen the best from him? But I've also think that within that best, that we potentially have seen, there's still stuff that can get better. And Purdy, people don't give him credit for how good of an athlete he is, but I keep on talking about the 95th percentile 10-yard split, a 1.55 10-yard split. That opens up some off-schedule possibilities. And as he develops further comfort within the system and knows when to differentiate between on-schedule plays and when to bail to off-schedule plays, he has the tools to be able to hit some of these off-schedule plays, I think, with decent consistency. Again, he throws on the run very well, better than Trey Lance, better than Jimmy Garoppolo. And that 10-yard burst might be faster than Trey Lance's for Brock Purdy. The 40 isn't, but the 10-yard burst might be faster. And with those physical tools, you potentially see some upside for Brock Purdy. That's my initial reading on him this year. How many touchdowns will Purdy throw? I have no idea. Against Washington, I think he'll throw 2. I don't know. Washington is a good football team. I don't think they're going to score 20 either. I'm going to have my prediction later in the week. Will the 49ers beat the Commanders is going to come out tomorrow. But 49ers defense, if they hold Washington to under 17 or fewer, it'd be the 8th straight game that the 49ers have done that. And that would tie a franchise record with the 1984 team. Is the Kalia Davis practice window activation just to get him some practice reps? Or could he see the field this season? He could see the field this season, and people have asked me this question. Since Kalia Davis started the season on NFI, non-football injury list, not on IR, a potential activation would not cost the 49ers one of their 2 remaining IR activations. So they're playing with house money here. I do think that the timing of this, 3 weeks left in the season, screams redshirt year, but the 49ers just wanted to see Kalia Davis practice. But if he looks really good, and if they have some injury issues, some thinness issues along the defensive line, they can activate him at nearly no cost. The cost of only a roster spot for somebody else, but normally you can maneuver around such things. The issue would be if he took up one of those 2 remaining return from IR designations, which Davis would not. Those 2 designations will likely go to Javon Greenlaw, assuming everything goes well there, and Elijah Mitchell, because the 49ers need Mitchell for the playoffs. So you don't want to use one of them on Davis. So it is possible, but I'm just not sure yet. And I don't think the 49ers are either. I think they want to see how Kalia Davis looks out on the football field. And he's looked explosive to me for the past couple of games. Jackrabbit Jenkins is on the field. He was on the field last game. Charvarius Ward went into concussion protocol, or maybe not. It was kind of confusing, but they didn't put him back in. Janoris Jenkins finished up that game, did a good job for the 49ers, at cornerback. Look, they got Deommodore Lenoir playing well. They have Jimmy Ward playing well in the slot, and they have Charvarius Ward as a Pro Bowl alternate. Somebody could argue that he's a Pro Bowl quality player. I think he is. You're not going to just plug in a 34-year-old corner like Janoris Jenkins into the starting lineup. He's going to be depth, and he's done a good job at that depth position. The NASCAR package, Kalia Davis, Eric Armstead, because Kalia Davis, former stack linebacker, speaking of inside linebackers, Armstead, Bosa, and Drake Jackson. It's not a pure speed package like the 49ers had back in the past with D Ford, but that'll do. That's a nice little pass rushing package for the 49ers for sure. You get Armstead working up against the guard. It would generate pressures, that's for sure. Kalia Davis is very explosive. Again, former inside linebacker turned defensive tackle. Josh Norman. I think Jenkins probably gives the 49ers more than Josh Norman, although Josh Norman had all those peanut punches, 4-6 fumbles. That was remarkable last year, but he didn't do much in pass coverage, that's for sure. Mitchell only wants to play the Bengals in the AFC. Here's the Josh Norman reference that I just saw. All right, guys, any more questions? We're still growing in viewership, so I want to keep it on here for a little bit, but you guys have to have good questions. Those of you who just joined, we'll go back here. No Pro Bowl for Christian McCaffrey or Dre Greenlaw, which for McCaffrey is patently ridiculous. Why? Well, look at this. All-purpose yardage. He has more all-purpose yardage than the 3 backs who made the Pro Bowl for the NFC. My theory is that football awards simply don't seem to value multifaceted running backs. And the reason why I say this is because I covered McCaffrey at Stanford in 2015 when he shattered Barry Sanders' all-purpose yardage record by 614 yards, and McCaffrey still didn't win the Heisman. So there's some kind of systemic bias against multifaceted running backs. Hell, Roger Craig isn't even in the Hall of Fame. And he was the first multifaceted 1,000 running back. So there's something there that just isn't clicking for awards, Pro Bowls, All Pros, whatever. Yeah, maybe McCaffrey gets All Pro. We'll see. But something there has caused players like McCaffrey to get slighted multiple times. As far as Dre Greenlaw goes, he wasn't even an alternate for the 49ers, which was wild to me. But I do have to note that only 2 inside linebackers make the Pro Bowl team per conference. One of those spots went to Fred Warner. The other went to Demario Davis, who has 8 sacks this year. So, I mean, it's always a tough situation. You can't read too much into this, but we will talk about it because it matters to the players. And if it matters to the players, it matters to me because I'm here to convey the feelings of the 49ers locker room to you, right? So it obviously matters to the players, their families. It contractually matters to some guys. And, you grow up saying you want to go to the Pro Bowl, right? People say that. Aren't they making it a flag football game now too? I'm not sure. I know that they keep on, lowering the level of contact in the game because it's obviously not worth it for people to get hurt there. But anyway, it's not about the game. It's about the title, right? You want to be a Pro Bowler. And McCaffrey already is a Pro Bowler from years past. But based on what he has done for the 49ers this year, again, this is the graphic. This is the 49ers before and after Christian McCaffrey joined them as a full-time player. Blue is good, red is bad. Right side is after Christian McCaffrey. The impact that he's had has been absolutely immense this season. All right, more questions? Yeah, players in the Super Bowl don't go to the Pro Bowl anyway, so it could all end up being irrelevant, except for contractual reasons. And I think, I think they do. I think the NFL is still a little old school. I know all Pro Bowl, that kind of stuff. I think it impacts contract negotiations. So, it's everything impacts contract negotiations as far as status and stuff. I mean, the agent will sit down and be like, "Hey, 5-time Pro Bowler. Other 5-time Pro Bowlers have been paid this much. If you only have 4 times or 3 times on there, maybe you don't have it as much leverage." So I think it comes down to stuff like that. It's not scientific, but I think it could potentially affect some of that stuff. The Commanders' special teams are good, number 4 in the league. They're like a poor man's 2011 49ers. But, I mean, you could bust one against a good special teams unit. I think Ray McCloud seems to be getting close. He's been consistent, and he's been reliable for the 49ers, which is good. Reliability is the main thing that you need out of a returner. And he's an alternate for the Pro Bowl. Congratulations to McCloud. What is the biggest challenge against the Commanders? The defensive front, managing that defensive front. You know, I've talked about how good the 49ers offensive line has been since Purdy took over. We haven't seen right guard, Brunskill or Burford, give up a pressure. McGlinchey's been the number 11 pass blocker in football at the tackle position. They're going to have to keep that up against the really talented Washington front. And the interior guys are going to be stressed by Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen. It's not going to be easy in this game against Washington up front. So, you know, just a physical football team, hard-nosed football team. I'll say it again, poor man's 2011 49ers. That's what the 49ers have to be ready for against Washington this week. They're going to have to win that battle up front against in the trenches because especially if Purdy's not 100% still with that oblique injury, you got to keep him clean. You got to make sure that he has a very, very good chance to continue operating the 49ers offense looking downhill instead of fighting downhill. So I think that is the biggest challenge for the 49ers in this game. Yeah, you can win All Pro without winning the Pro Bowl. All Pro is voted on by AP, Associated Press, sports writers. Pro Bowl is a third of it is fan voting, a third of it is coach voting, and a third of it is player voting. And it's wild because Christian McCaffrey won the fan voting. So it was the players and the coaches, which is really weird to me because there's nothing but respect for Christian McCaffrey in that 49ers locker room. Can I compare the 49ers defense now to the one at the stretch run of last season? It's a whole lot better now. The thing about the 49ers defense now, and here, let me open up what the 49ers defense now looks like. Here you go. Let's make this big up on the screen. This is the 49ers defense right now. The middle line is you want to be below it with your performances. If you're above it, it's a bad performance. So the 49ers had bad performances against the Falcons and the Chiefs, and then they course corrected and they've been really good again. Most defenses don't hang out under the bold line, the horizontal bold line, as prolifically as the 49ers do. Last year, if I were to pull up a graph like this, and I can make one, have Ben Baldwin make one. He does a great job. Make sure you follow him on Twitter, Ben B. Baldwin. Last year, the 49ers, toward the end of the season, were improving defensively, but they were still leaking oil because they didn't have a top cornerback. And the pass rush, I don't think, was as strong as this year's. And the linebackers were hurt, right? Dre Greenlaw and Azeez Al-Shire, there's a lot of injuries for those guys. They came back. I think both of them were back for week 18 against the Rams. But Greenlaw, I think, started only 2 games last year, maybe 3. The 49ers were just more beaten up last season defensively. And they finally pulled things together toward the playoffs, but they weren't overpowering like this unit is, which is constantly dragging opposing defenses down. Yes, negative DVOA is a good defense. Positive DVOA is a good offense. You know, it's this 49ers team, and this is the article that I let's go down to the defense. See what they're doing team wide right here. Sorry, I didn't have that up on the screen, but this is the 49ers compared to the 94 team after the Eagles loss. Both of these teams have gone on tears. Look at this 49ers team. Number 1 offense, number 1 across the board on defense. Pass defense especially really good. Overall, plus 60% DVOA, which is insane because the second place team is, I believe, Philadelphia, plus 33%. Massive gap in performance between the 49ers and the Eagles. Somebody tweeted me saying, the Eagles are better than the 49ers. I'm like, not right now, they're not. 49ers head and shoulders above the Eagles since Christian McCaffrey joined this team, which makes it wild that McCaffrey is not a Pro Bowler. I'm going to reserve judgment on this. Is this the best defense I've covered? I can't tell you until I see how this story ends 2019 looked pretty damn good until Mahomes got him in the Super Bowl. That's still the best defense I've covered. I covered some really good college defenses at Stanford, 2012, 2013. Those are really good units. But a defense will get its flowers at the end of the season. And if the 49ers win the Super Bowl with their defense being the locomotive that's pulling this train, then absolutely yes. But the 85 Bears didn't become the 85 Bears until they won the Super Bowl. The 2000 Ravens didn't become the 2000 Ravens until they won the Super Bowl. Remember, the 85 Bears gave up 38 to Marino during the regular season. The 2000 Ravens gave up, I think, 2 games where they gave up 30 points during the regular season. But once they got to the Super Bowl and the 85 Bears won convincingly, obviously, I think it was the New York Giants, right, were the opponent for the 2000 Ravens. If I remember correctly, I think it was Kerry Collins. Yeah, Kerry Collins and the New York Giants against Trent Dilfer and the Ravens. Once those championships were cemented, those defenses became the legendary units that they are. It might still hurt, but I'll tell you what, if the 2019 49ers had held on in the Super Bowl, we'd be talking about the 1949ers defense in the same breath as the 2000 Ravens and the 1985 Bears, but we're not. And right now, statistically, this 2022 49ers defense is going toe-to-toe with prime 2019 49ers before Dee Ford got hurt. So they have a chance, especially since it seems that they're going to peak at the right time. They have a chance to go down as one of the greats. You toss into 2013 Seahawks, the Legion of Boom defense, into that category. But we don't know yet, and that's why the next month is going to be so exciting. Fernando, they don't want no flowers. They want some steak. They're dogs. Love it. Yes, here, but the thing is that Garoppolo's timeline is so narrow here, and we don't know if he's going to be 100%. The thing with Alex Smith and Kaepernick in 2013 is that Smith was fully healthy, and Harbaugh opted to go for more explosiveness with Kaepernick. In this situation, it's going to be a surgical strike, even though Jimmy Garoppolo has not needed surgery, for him to potentially come back, which is, I think he probably won't be 100% when he's first available. I think that's really possible. But the 49ers don't want to put Jimmy Garoppolo on IR so he can be quarterback depth while he continues to recover. So you let this play out organically. That's the only good answer that I have for you. Because Purdy that we see now might not be the Purdy that we see in a few weeks. Purdy himself is dealing with an oblique injury right now. We don't know what Jimmy Garoppolo's exact recovery rate's going to be. So just let it play out organically. That's the best way to do it. This defense wants some squirrels. Javon Kinlaw, talked to him today in the locker room. He's really excited right now. Kinlaw's obviously been through so much, worked so hard, and suffered such bad breaks with that knee situation that you feel there's a lot riding on him right now, on his future. He really wants to get back out there and help his team, and I thought he looked good today in his first practice back. The video's up there on YouTube if you want to go ahead and check it out. Deebo Samuel, we said it was going to be 3-ish weeks, and it's only been 1. So no update on Deebo Samuel. You know what? Maybe I should go find Javon Kinlaw. Let's watch the video of Javon Kinlaw at practice today. Put that up on the screen for this 49ers Q&A. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday evening. Week schedule is moved up a day because of the Saturday game. Most teams in the NFL are playing on Christmas Eve, Saturday, not on Christmas Day this weekend. All right, we need to find Kinlaw, right? Here it is. Put this one back up on the screen for you. Here's Javon Kinlaw practice today. And you'll also see Kalia Davis, 93, in some of these videos. But there's Kinlaw. I thought that he was moving really well at practice today. Big dude. Light on his feet. That's what you like to see because he's dealing with the fluid issues. There you see him walking right next to Kalia Davis. You see the difference in body types. Davis significantly shorter. He's a defensive tackle. Javon Kinlaw is he's just massive. It's a big body. The 49ers are waiting with bated breath to see what they might be able to get from Javon Kinlaw this year. There's Kalia Davis, 93. You see the DJ Jones type build, but Davis has got skinnier legs. And I think that's, almost linebacker's legs, right? Doesn't look like that really, really stout fire hydrant. The upper body does, but that lower body, I think that lends itself to some of the explosiveness that he's taken over from his former days as a linebacker. I'll let this play for a couple more of the Kinlaw drills. This is like it's a few minute video, so you got plenty of stuff to check out. Look at him just tug that block and sled. Alex Barrett. Somebody's asking who's Barrett. That's Alex Barrett, practice squad defensive end. Jordan Willis, 75. Barrett's 58. You see him there on the right. Kamoko Toure's out there. Armstead, I mean, that's another tall body. Him and Kinlaw tower over everybody. There's Kinlaw. Working some of that speed. Now, these clips aren't necessarily in order. I edited them from practice. Actually, the ones that you see later on happened earlier, and they were further away. I just wanted to. Here's the crew. Look at that. 49ers D line. Looks like that should be on a cover of an album or something. All of them. Kinlaw on the very right next to Nick Bosa. Get a little zoom here. There's Bosa. Now we're going to go to the drills earlier on in practice. See Kinlaw just working on some leverage. And then they're going to have the dive drill where they're working from their knees, extending their bodies. That's what they actually open up practice with. So here you go. Kinlaw. Well, he's still on his feet here. We'll see the rest of them in a second. But I did think that he was looking good today. I really did. I thought that Javon Kinlaw, for his first day back out there, he was displaying the kind of freshness that you want to see him display. And I think it's just a matter of how his knee responds now. And the 49ers have 3 weeks to activate him. They seem to indicate that this weekend's a possibility. I've always viewed it as they're going to test the hell out of that knee for 2 or 3 weeks before they do actually use up that activation spot. But I mean, we'll see. They could play this however they want to. Look at Kinlaw. That's awesome to be able to keep that kind of leverage at that kind of height, staying low. It's some really impressive stuff. So, and exactly, you say fresh legs just in time for the playoffs. That's what the 49ers are trying to get out of this. Yeah, and I think, there is a plan, and you don't know the plan at the start of the season. Brian says it seems like they put bigger guys in as the season closes out. Your plan is determined by the cards that you're dealt. So some of the cards that the 49ers have been dealt have been, well, guys get hurt. But one thing about that is that the season is so long that even if guys get hurt, they have a chance to come back. And in the case of Elijah Mitchell, look, he missed 6 to 8 weeks there with the first MCL sprain, but he came back and he looked really good and really fresh as opposed to some other guys that he was playing against who were beaten up when he came back. Then he sprained the MCL again. And that's obviously really bad news. You don't want any injury to happen, much less twice, but you have to look at it through silver lining and you plan around it and you say, okay, hey, this already happened. We can't reverse it, but we can let Elijah Mitchell heal. And now we're going to have fresh legs in the playoffs at running back. So you work around it. And that's what the 49ers did. You guys still watching Kinlaw? Here's that drill I was talking about. It's down on the ground. There. Look at that. Look at that violent lunge forward. I think that was good stuff. Impressive. So if Kinlaw stays healthy, 49ers have themselves another force along that defensive line. Hope you guys enjoyed the footage from practice today. Everybody like the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you check out the article from this morning, How the West Was Won. I worked very hard on this one. I worked very hard on all my articles, but this is how the West was won on The Athletic. I am copying and pasting this, putting it into the chat section right now. Because this goes into the whole 7-game tear. I compare the 94 Niners to these 2022 Niners. Yeah, I wrote this on the day that Christian McCaffrey was snubbed from the Pro Bowl, and I think if Pro Bowl voters would have checked out the article before they voted, that might not have happened. So anyway, make sure you do check this one out. It is up on the Athletic right now. You also get a New York Times subscription with it. So thank you, appreciate you, Brian. Brian here, stumping for the article. I only paid him $5 to say. Only paid him $10 to say this. I'm gonna run out of money. You guys are being too nice. Cool, guys. Well, thank you. Time for me to go. I wanna go get some pizza before, this night is all said and done. I've been working really hard today. So, everybody, make sure you subscribe to The Athletic. That article link is in the chat section. Make sure you follow along on Twitter, and we're gonna get into serious Washington Commanders talk tomorrow. Will the 49ers beat the Commanders? Prediction coming after that, and some final injury updates, maybe some more Christian McCaffrey talk, maybe some more Brock Purdy talk. A lot of content though already up on the page. So everybody subscribe, join along. It's been fun. Everybody have a good Wednesday night. Take care, and thank you for watching. Bye now.